And welcome back to another exciting episode of American Pylon. Your host here, Will Mehall, joined by my counterparts, James Thomas Fanning IV, Tyler Combs, and our producer, Dave Grayson, behind the computer and all the tech back there making this happen. We've got a lot to get to today, right? We're getting into the meat of the baseball season with playoffs coming up. NHL is starting off in the preseason, and we're actually going to talk about none of that and really get into UGA football. But before we do,
talk football.
I want to give a shout out to our partners at In We Go. And we've talked about them before on this show, but for those of you that haven't heard, In We Go is your one-stop shop for events in and around the city. For just $30 a month, you get unlimited access to baseball games, hockey games, basketball games, brewery tours, concerts, and it's live now in Atlanta, Phoenix, Denver, and Washington, D.C. And I guess last episode we found out that they're going to be going into St. Pete.
Tampa/St. Pete.
So that's really exciting. Be sure to check them out. And now for a limited time, if you plug in the keyword Pylon into the promo code box, you'll get $10 off your first month. So be sure to check them out at In We Go.
You can see Lil Wayne in Atlanta on Sunday.
I saw that. That was pretty cool.
In his first live performance since he released the Carter 5.
They also just added,
honestly underwhelming.
The second Falcons game is Falcons-Bucks, which
I
just
did
added
see
today.
that.
So if you're in the Atlanta area, local listener, Falcons-Bucks are on In We Go.
When do those tickets go live?
I didn't see the reminder. I think it's always Wednesday or Thursday.
Well, but the game isn't this Sunday.
Yeah, it's next.
Yeah.
Dude, that would be
Tyler
pretty cool.
and I and David have a 7 a.m. flight back from New Orleans that day, so maybe we'll come home, take a power nap, and go see the...
Tyler, you claimed tickets off In We Go for a Falcons game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where were those seats at?
They were standing room only.
Okay. But, I mean,
So
still,
like
you take Marta down there, you know, that's
Yeah,
all
man,
you're paying for is beer
It's a
and food
pretty
at
nice
that point.
standing room area. It's in the
Yeah.
end zone. That
Were you guys up on that bridge?
So I've never actually stood up there for a game.
I've stood there for a soccer game.
I've walked past that area where they have you stand for standing room only for Atlanta United, and it wasn't bad. As long as you get there early enough, you're not pushed too far back. It's actually not a bad seats. Jimmy and I on In We Go actually toured Mercedes-Benz the other week.
Yeah,
How was that?
Which is really cool.
It was good. I thought the stadium is cooler to me than SunTrust, but I thought the SunTrust tour was
Better?
well done. You got to see more stuff. But we did go in the locker room for United and
For United
the
and the Falcons.
And we got to
They have
go on the
separate
field.
locker rooms?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And no other teams can use them. Like
Yeah,
no
wow.
other
So they
no
have
college
those,
team.
They have those two locker rooms, and then there's 6 more locker rooms for when it's like a neutral site game.
That's
between
awesome.
college
Like
football and
auxiliary
That's the way it
rooms.
should be, I think.
Yeah, no, it's really cool how it's
You know?
reserved for just the home teams. And then I think the most impressive thing that Jimmy and I saw during all that was what's it, Arthur Blank's family suite. 2-story suite.
Way nicer.
It was actually
than
just
my-
a house that they
way,
moved
literally
into
way,
the stadium.
Way nicer than my parents' actual house.
It was like crystal hanging all over the place.
Wow.
He said when Arthur Blank shows up, he comes up in this elevator. He walks out. There's like this quail feather wall that he just walks out to just because. Yeah, I don't know. It's a thing.
What?
He brings 4 people with him, or 3 people. His chef, his own bartender, and I guess a bodyguard, and then Arthur Blank. Those are the 4 people that like come in the elevator, walk off, and present themselves.
His wife.
God. Yeah, it was
probably
awesome.
have a separate elevator.
Yeah.
It was nice. He had
And
he had artwork hung on the wall, literally made of money.
Yep.
Just
It was
framed.
old checks, just
checks,
framed.
yeah.
Are you serious?
Yep.
And he had a
That's
Mercedes
ridiculous.
Benz from like 1895.
Yeah, it ran-
Like
it
a
ran-
whole car?
Yeah, it ran on steam. So the first ever Mercedes Benz ran on steam before gas and I guess coal or anything else was even explored. It's
Probably like
steam.
a multi-million-dollar car, and he's like, yeah, I'd like that just sitting here.
Collect dust.
Priceless was the price we were given on it.
Really?
Yeah, the lady that gave the tour. She had a funny quote. She said, we asked her, I think, like how she got into being the one that gives the tours of Arthur Blank's personal place. And she said, well, I couldn't be born rich and good looking, so I chose good looking and made rich friends. All right, I like
Words
that.
I live by also.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Well, we're going to go ahead and talk about the UGA versus Tennessee game. And, you know, last week against Missouri, when we recapped the game, we said there are really 2 narratives here, right? There's a pessimistic one and an optimistic one, right? That we saw that there's definitely some things that they could improve upon, but we didn't think it was time to hit a panic button. Now I think there's more so 2 narratives, at least from what I've heard. There's either the bad narrative and then there's the worst narrative. I think there's some serious concerns about the way the Dogs played last week against a team that we all predicted and God were hoping that they were going to actually drudge into the ground. So I want to start off and just talk about this. Now, Tyler, I know that you rewatched the game and you said after rewatching it, it kind of talked you down off the ledge a little bit. So tell me a little bit about that, what you saw from the first game And then, kind of what made you change your tone after rewatching
Sure.
it?
I wouldn't say talk me down off the ledge. I wasn't on the ledge. It was frustrating, like most of our games have been. Unfortunately, I think it doesn't feel like we can put a complete game together just yet. We seem to start slow, even though we scored in our first offensive possession, albeit unconventional with Isaac Nada having returned that fumble.
That was goofy.
But yeah, after rewatching the game, I did feel a lot better. About our defense, we were pretty smothering than I gave us credit for at the game. I think. Excuse me, coughing a lot. I just thought during the game it was just frustrating. It drone on when you were in attendance, and it just seemed like we couldn't really get them off the field. Rewatching it, I mean, the 2 touchdowns they scored. First off, we gifted the first one to them, I think, with 2 penalties. We had them stop. We got a sack on we tackled them for a loss on a 2nd and 10. Had our unnecessary roughness on DeAndre Walker that gave him 15 yards, and then had him stopped again on 3rd down, roughing our pass interference on Tyson Campbell, marched for another 15 yards. Then they score on it. So we kept that drive alive, and then on the other 2nd touchdown, again, it wasn't like we didn't have the athletic ability or the guys or the people to beat them straight up. It was just bad angles by J.R. Smith, which does concern me because J.R. Reed, not Smith. J.R. Reed, because he's supposed to change. He's supposed to be
J.R. Smith. He didn't know the score.
One of our leaders in the backfield.
We were ahead.
Yeah, who is J.R. Smith? Oh, for the Cavaliers. That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, J.R. Reed. But but actually, the overarching thing I noticed when rewatching it was in the first half, it was more execution, which can be corrected. It was from missing the deep throw to Riley Ridley in the touchdown, even though we got a touchdown with Isaac Nada in that same drive, same series.
And that was the fumble.
The fumble recovery.
So
bizarre turn of events.
Did you understand what had happened watching it live until the replay?
Mm-hmm.
I was so confused.
Wait, because you guys were both in attendance at the game.
Yeah, but we weren't sitting next to each other, but we were both in the end zone that he scored.
Yeah,
towards.
I'm in the east end zone on the 300, so I can see. I mean, you can see it develop pretty well. So not much is.
I was just like we saw Nada got beat bad first of all.
Yes, he did.
By whoever the defensive end or whoever was coming, and then we saw the ball go down, and we were all like, "Oh, there's a fumble!" And then all of a sudden he's running for a touchdown.
It bounced right up to his hands.
Because we were like, "Did Fromm manage to pitch it to him at the last second?" Or we
pure luck
on replay we could see it, but I was confused when it first happened.
Right. The ball's bouncing our way, right? So that doesn't hurt. But I think when you go to look at how good and predictive our offense is, we're getting the ball to roll that way for us. We're starting off hot with interceptions, and from the South Carolina game and for the Missouri game. So those aren't really indicative, I think, to how explosive our offense actually is this year, unfortunately. But again, it's kind of overarching. When I went back and watched the game, I saw the first half as things we can correct. Just some overthrown balls. Jeremiah Holloman seemed like he lost the ball a little bit, but it could have been caught for another deep touchdown. And then we had that one big on our second drive when we had a perfect play call with that screen pass to James Cook. DeAndre Swift, and he dropped it. He had nothing but grass in front of him. That was another touchdown. So all in all, we left. And then I think it was also Terry Godwin. He dropped one
had
of the seams. So
that he
could have been.
He had to beat one guy. And it was just green grass.
I think we guaranteed left 14 points on the board, possibly 21, and that stuff that still can be corrected. So first half, I think execution. Second half, I'm going to say it was more play calling. I thought it was kind of bizarre. We came out right out of the gate, marched down field, scored. After that, it was bizarre. We got very conservative. We were up 24-0 already, and it seemed like we just wanted to ice the game.
But then we had the 3 straight pass calls, which I thought was so bizarre. When you were deep in your own end, why have that?
No clock up, and it was just ugly passes, and then it also put a lot of pressure on our offensive line, who wasn't necessarily doing all that hot at pass protection. And then I didn't understand the rotation. I understand the rotation of Kendall Baker and Isaiah Wilson, which I don't think Kendall Baker looked all that sharp.
Play that well,
unfortunately. So it was just that was more, I think, coaching pieces. So I guess look at it as execution, which can be corrected, and then coaching, which is a little more conservative. So I think we have to mix it together. So I felt better coming away from that. That's just what it felt like to me. Just if we would have caught some of those balls and executed, the game's definitely out of hand in the first half, and now I can justify why we are so conservative. I didn't think we had to be so conservative at 24-0, and I get Kirby wanting to shorten the game pound the rock. But again, to the throwing three, 3 passes on our second possession in the second half just really didn't make sense. We scored when we had to. You saw we scored right out of the gate on the third quarter, and we scored late. We had took 7 minutes and 50 seconds, almost 8 minutes off the clock, and scored on almost our last possession and got a late turnover and scored again. So when we put the game, it was never in doubt. I think it got too close for comfort. But again, just rewatching it, I see it as almost a tale of two halves of execute and polish up some of those things, we can run away with it. I guess and I do agree that it's a concern that if you cannot do it versus Tennessee, how are we going to do it versus LSU? How are we going to do it versus Bama versus Auburn? And I think those are certainly questions that we want to feel better about as fans. And I think Kirby would agree with us. I don't think we're asking too much as fans. I think we're starting to get into, here comes week 6, thankfully versus Vanderbilt, and then we go on the road to LSU. We want to have this stuff cleaned up before we head into Baton Rouge, right? And I'm not sure we're going to get there, which does worry me. So I think there's reason to be cautious. But again, I think we are seeing a young team. We're seeing that growth.
The thing that I would say the takeaway in terms of LSU that I saw is our defense played so much better when we were willing to play just like a normal defense and not have those 2 deep safeties like we did against Missouri. And I think that Burrow is LSU's quarterback is a lot closer to Guarantano than he is to Drew Lock.
Yeah.
So the way our defense plays, I feel like we'll match up better against LSU just based on how we played yesterday, how we played the run, and how we feel comfortable putting our guys kind of out there on an island when the other team doesn't have an all-world quarterback that can fit the balls in really tight windows that we trust DeAndre Baker and we trust Tyson Campbell one-on-one. I don't really see LSU scoring more than 20 points. So I think 21 points will win us the game, and I think that Rodrigo is going to be a huge weapon because even if we have drives that kind of sputter, he's just like automatic inside 40 yards. So I feel better about LSU specifically, even though I don't know that I feel better about the season as a whole, which is kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah.
But I just think we'll match up well against LSU based on what I saw Saturday.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think, to your point, personnel-wise and scheme-wise, we seem to match up better against a team like that than a team that's going to spread us out. Also,
I think we're going to have a hard time running against them, though.
I wouldn't. That wouldn't surprise anyone. I don't think. Right. I think the biggest part of all this is our offensive line is not what we thought it was going to be.
They're not the sum of their parts, which is weird. Not weird because that cohesion and gelling is so important in an offensive line. You can't just have 5 guys be awesome but have no chemistry. Like that's not how an offensive line works. But we just spent the offseason so excited about all this talent on the line, and it hasn't come together yet.
Right.
So maybe the light will come on. Just 1 week all of a sudden.
Right. I felt like we got better last year, and this team will get better as the season goes on. It will. It's just you don't want to have. I don't know. I want to say you don't want to have the feeling of being unsure heading into a game where you have to be good. Does that make sense? I don't want to have to hope going into LSU that the light clicks on.
Yeah.
Right. I want to see the light clicking. I'd be on when we're rolling into LSU.
I think LSU is going to kind of fall on Fromm's shoulders because me personally, like if I was a defensive coordinator, looking at what we've seen so far, I feel like Fromm has regressed a little bit. He seems a little tentative. He comes to get a little happy feet. He hasn't been quite as accurate. So I would kind of load the box and especially LSU tends to have very good cover corners, just kind of like our secondary is this year. So I think we have better wide receivers than them. So I think if we both play a similar game against each other, I think the advantage is to us just in overall talent. But if I was their defensive coordinator, I'd put an extra guy in the box and have a lot of guys playing man coverage on the outside and say, force Fromm to beat us by fitting those balls into small windows. And we haven't seen him be able to do that yet. And that kind of defense, when you're in offense, favors tight ends because they tend to get locked up on linebackers. And I think Nauta, there's not very many linebackers in the country that can cover him.
Nauta looked good. He had a pretty good game.
And Fromm doesn't throw him the ball. So maybe he'll have a breakout game against LSU, or maybe we'll continue to scratch our head and be like, why the hell is he not getting the ball more? But I could see Fromm and maybe the tight ends being kind of a key to how we play against LSU.
Yeah, I was interested to hear what your guys' take was on Justin Fields' role in this past game, and I was kind of thinking about it, and it was
with both of his pass attempts.
Well, yeah, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
So and they say when they bring him in, because of that dual threat, we were actually able to run the ball more effectively when he was in the game. So I don't know what kind of role he's going to play going down. As we get into honestly more difficult games. Obviously, we got Vanderbilt next, but then you're talking LSU, Florida, Kentucky's looked better than we thought,
Yes.
and then you got Auburn. So, I mean, this next run of games, I think, is stacking up to be a little bit tougher than we'd anticipated. But where do you think Fields falls into that game plan? Again, we haven't seen him pass the ball nearly as much as we would like, but he's still a threat on his legs, and hopefully that opens up the run game. What do you guys think about Fields?
I would think that we're letting him throw it as much as we feel comfortable, which to this point is not very much. So
Yeah.
I don't know if he's not making the reads or he's not making the throws, but I mean, he's very dynamic as a runner. Our offense moves better down the field, especially rushing, when we have him at quarterback, but I'd like to see more of him throwing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think from what we've seen of Fields so far in his passing game, I'm sure he's kind of handcuffed by Chaney and maybe James Coley of where he snaps the ball. If it's going to be a pass, it's like almost a one read. And if it's not there, tuck it and run, which is why we've kind of seen him tuck it and run so frequently. I think he has the tools there. I mean, it's documented when he played at the Nike Open. He was an MVP, and you can't even run. You have to pass in. He had good passing numbers at Harrison. I think he's a dynamic athlete. I just think he's not going to take the job from Fromm. Obviously, I don't. In my opinion, I don't think we see enough of him, or maybe just enough confidence in him to take over the offense and really lead a drive and do whatever is. I know he has a skill set, but maybe it's not there. As far as I guess between the ears. Can I say that now, David? He's not really there between the ears just yet. Picking
Producer
up the whole
Dave
offense.
told us we say
But I
between
agree
the
with you.
ears
I mean,
too much.
he seems to. Versus Tennessee especially, we moved when he came in, and he got us down in the red zone. I mean, he moved the ball. He's so dynamic. It's another element that we haven't had in quite some time in this offense, and having that dual threat guy.
Well, that's taking us back to, because when Kirby was asked about it, he said there's really no plan to bring Fields in. This is really just when we feel that he can come into the game and contribute. Now, do you think that they're going to have a plan that's built out because of what they've seen? Again, that's not necessarily saying that they're going to just give him the keys to the car and let him throw all over the place. But could you see them now just building that out of the plan when they need to get the ball moving on the ground?
I don't know that they would necessarily abandon. So what I think is if we're not running the ball well, but Fromm is looking halfway decent, I think we'll leave Fromm in there and just try to kind of run or pass to open up the run. I think the situation where you're going to see Fields coming in, which is maybe a little bit of what we saw this week, is those times where we can't really get anything going on the ground and Fromm isn't looking particularly sharp. Because then it's like the coaches could kind of see it and say, well, if we don't have a passing game either way, even if we don't really trust Justin Fields to pass, we got nothing going right now, and at least he gives us more of a running threat, and it just opens up more lanes for the actual running backs because teams have to put a linebacker to spy Justin Fields, so it gives us the numbers advantage in the box.
Yeah.
So that would be my thing. I don't think we're going to go from seeing Fields getting 2 pass attempts a game, 4 pass attempts a game, to all of a sudden he's going to come in and get 21 or 22. Sure. So I think it's Fromm's team and Fromm's position to lose as long as we're having some sort of success throwing the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to continue to see Fields, in almost the red zone package, right, to open it up.
Which is what we said before the season. That's kind of what we expected.
Yeah, I mean, and I just think that's when we saw him. I mean, it was funny. We saw almost opposite that. We saw where Fields got us down the field. We almost got into the red zone. We got that third and 1? And then we third and 6. Or gosh, I'm going backwards. I think it was 3rd and 1, and we brought Fromm in when it was 3rd and 1, a short yardage, which I'm okay with because I don't want to use Fields as a battering ram. I think we ended up getting the false start. Then it was 3rd and 6.
Okay.
So we almost kind of went backwards when we got closer. But then we brought Fromm in. I don't know if it was tighter windows. We needed to trust. The field shrinks, so you have to be a little
you
more
almost
precise.
might at that point just trust Fromm to check into the right play. If the defense is showing something, he's got such command of the offense from what we hear that even if he checks to a running play and we're like, oh, Fields could have done that, like Fields might not have known to check into it. We don't know the play before and after.
My thing with Fromm is I wonder, and I read this. But I thought it was a really good point. I wonder if it's more he's always been smart. Everyone's always kind of giving him kudos for how much and how well he gets into the playbook and how well he can read defenses. Mm-hmm. What if the handcuffs are off now and it's not so much here's your 1 or 2 reads? He's just been totally free, go with it, and now that's what's kind of making him so hesitant and starting off slow, as he is truly reading through the progression of every single play. Fromm. Did I say Field? Sorry. Yeah, Fromm. I wonder if he's almost handcuffed himself, kind of paralysis by analysis, right? Kind of now that he's not having 1 or 2 reads. Now he's not relying on 1 or 2 guys like Javon Wims and Riley Ridley next. Like he has 4 or 5 weapons, and now he's almost, he's not he's not seeing the whole field because in time, maybe he's not quick enough through his progressions now that the reins have been taken off and it's just all go. I thought that was a good point though, because that, to me, that's the only way you can see almost a sophomore slump from him, because granted his stats are better. His completion percentage, his QBR, it's better.
Maybe just not having those explosive plays.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem to be as sharp down the field is the thing. I mean, it's fun. We say that he was versus Missouri. Granted, that some of those are blown coverages, but the 3 touchdown passes in Missouri were all more than 40 yards. I think even 43 yards was the shortest one.
Yeah, but that's almost being a little lazy looking at the numbers, because some of those were intermediate throws that the receiver just took and burned everybody. Yeah. Whereas you think about like the Mississippi State type and the touchdowns against Missouri last year that he threw, where he was really hitting a guy in stride 40 yards downfield, which we haven't seen out of him this year.
I don't know. I mean, because I think again, going back and watching the game, I think there's things that we can correct, and then I think there were things we were kind of handcuffed by the coaching staff in the second half. But I think overall, the feeling I'm most uneasiest about this team right now is we have all these returning pieces, 4 or 5 starters in the offensive line, even though we're shuffling some guys around due to injury, but still talent. Still we had the talent there. Our wide receivers are probably the best group that we've had since Kirby's been there, I would say.
Yeah, it might be the best group we had.
And then you have Fromm returning in the same offensive system, and yet it's not there. And we're 5 weeks in. We're not week 1, week 2. I mean, we're getting through the weaker opponents, and we're still not looking that sharp. So I can certainly see why there's some cause of I think we'll get better, but again, it's like that has to bite you eventually, right? If the money's on, you're not going to go undefeated. Not many teams end up go undefeated. You can certainly see why we would be. So I think the thing is I hate not feeling as confident as I did last year. Last year you could see it. Yeah. We were dominating. We did own the line of scrimmage, and we're not seeing that versus these weaker teams that are quickly falling off the schedules or going by them, albeit still winning comfortably. But I just. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
To me, I wonder. We talked about an earlier podcast that your offensive line is responsible. Really, the way Bill Conley does his advanced stats is your offensive line is responsible for the first 5 yards that your running back gets, and after that, it's on the running back. So that our running backs are averaging 5-6 yards a carry or whatever, which is respectable. But we're not having these huge breakaway explosive plays. So I think we're maybe we were a little starstruck with how much we had coming back, and then we had Zeus that we were so excited about all offseason until he got hurt, and then DeAndre Swift was kind of a Heisman dark horse all season. I think we're just missing Chubb and Michelle, maybe more than we expected to. Just their patience and the way that they ran, and then both of them just kind of had a second gear that we haven't seen out of any of our running backs so far.
I did think Harrigan looked great on that last drive. And the spin move, the tough nose, and then Swift's last touchdown when he cut right and cut back and then ran over some guy. I mean, we look strong. I did read Kirby's words on DeAndre Swift. He said that DeAndre, and I thought this might be a thing. When you're the guy, it's a whole lot different than being the number 3 guy behind Chubb and Michelle. They said he's a lot more sore and banged up after practice and after games, and I can totally see that. Especially as a freshman, you're coming, you got something to prove, chip on your shoulder, running angry. If you get any carries after Sonny Michelle and Nick Chubb, that feels good, right? Now you're the guy. You're not coming in as this fresh, young, exciting change of pace back. That's almost our Justin Fields now. So, Swift's now the guy. He's coming out with not an ungodly amount of carries, but he's definitely getting banged up, and even after practice, and he's not going in there as that fresh, hungry. Not saying he's not hungry, he doesn't want it, but he's just. That's a different mentality. That's a different mindset, a different approach to game day when you're the guy and you're getting hit every practice.
You could argue that he probably would have made a bigger jump had he stayed. Say Chubb and Michelle somehow had one more year of eligibility, and he was the third string guy for a second year in a row. He probably would have been better as the third string guy this year than he was last year. Yeah, but he hasn't quite made that jump to the first string guy that we all were hoping to see.
I say that as trying to explain as to maybe why we're getting off to a slow start. Maybe we're just getting acclimated to some of this change from last year to this year, and still expecting greatness and expecting Kirby to build on what we did. But I don't want to make an excuse either. Other teams have to go through the same exact stuff. We have all the talent. I mean, we're over here. I'm beating. We're pumping our chests, and we're bragging about how much talent we have, and I want to see it come to fruition. It just has to all click. It has to all come together, and I don't know what it's going to. Maybe it's the lack of veteran leadership. I don't know. Maybe it's just that some of that cohesion, and I don't want to drop a game for it to click. Like last year, not that we had to lose to Auburn, but once we did, it was just that served as such a good reminder as to I don't know, maybe it's just how important this is, how easy it is to get knocked out. Just let it slip through your fingers. I don't want to get to that point to where that's what makes us grow up.
Yeah, exactly.
You would think after all these games, Kirby is giving them some very vocal, very physical practice weeks to kind of get their attention and watch the film. There's plenty of stuff to teach on and to learn from. But I mean, I guess as kids, you don't always, you learn different ways. I don't know. I guess I don't know what it could be that's going to flip that switch to where we walk out of a game like LSU and it's like that's what we've been wanting to see all year, and why.
You alluded to a really good point earlier where you identified the first half as being execution and then the second half as being the coaching decisions, and so it'll be interesting to see what they need to carry into this game against Vandy. I don't see the coaching being as much of an issue as far as execution, so I definitely want to get your guys' opinion on that. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to Ed Freeman at State Farm. We've talked a lot about Ed Freeman on this show. We all rely on Ed Freeman for our coverage because if you're like us and you're accident prone, then you're also like us and you seek out the best coverage. And that's why we rely on Ed Freeman State Farm for all our insurance coverage needs. So moving on to Vandy, I want to
I also saw where Ed got the picture with Nature Boy.
Yeah.
Did he really?
I met Ric Flair.
I meant to ask.
Ric Flair
I meant to ask you because I only saw Snapchats and Instagrams of Ric Flair coming out. What was that all about? Why was he on the field?
I don't know.
Just for fun, I guess. Yeah, it wasn't really related.
Celebrity
to
guy.
He's just a senile old man and stumbled onto the field.
Yeah. Herschel Walker was there. That was cool.
It was Herschel Walker
He came on the field at halftime.
Herschel Walker Day.
He showed up at my roommate's Christmas party or something last year, and
Ric Flair, Herschel Walker.
Ric Flair.
Okay.
What? He was there?
Yeah, he was there. He was the guest speaker or whatever.
Just being the man.
Just being like,
woo. But he was in really bad health, and they actually recorded some videos of him, throwing out some promos to their partners and stuff. And he just said he didn't seem to be 100. But he looked pretty fired up at this game.
Yeah, he doesn't, and that's crazy to imagine he wouldn't be in bad health at this age.
Well, it's
he
funny
lived such a healthy lifestyle.
He's from North
younger.
Carolina, I know, but I know he's not a Panthers fan because he grew up a Falcons fan. Yeah. The Panthers weren't around when he was younger.
Oh,
so maybe it wasn't like UNC wasn't around, but maybe he gets because of the ties to cheering for the Falcons. He's a Georgia guy.
I don't think he's an actual Georgia fan. I think he just.
I like to believe that he is.
Well, is it the group Migos that sings about
Ric Flair
drip?
Well,
I think that's Quavo.
He's one of the
Quavo
three.
is a Georgia fan.
Yeah,
he's
so
one of the
maybe
three
that's
Migos.
a thing. I don't know because they've had Quavo at practice several times.
Side note: Did you guys watch the Ric Flair 30 for 30? Have you guys seen that?
Mm-hmm. I've seen parts of it, but I haven't seen it all the way.
Have you seen it, David?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Is it worth it? Is it everything that I hope and dream that it will be? Because I've never seen it, and I'm a huge Ric Flair fan. Yeah. Tyler and I are both big wrestling fans. I don't know if that's ever come up on this show.
We should do.
It's intense.
We should do a Mount Rushmore of ESPN 30 for 30s.
Ooh, that would be good.
We'll save that for
also,
future podcasts.
I don't know if you guys have, but the 30 for 30 has a podcast.
I saw that.
Subscribe to.
Okay, don't shout out other podcasts on our podcast.
Yeah. Seriously.
Easy. Moving on.
I don't. I'm sure they're flying pretty low under the radar over there at ESPN podcast. So I'm sure. I don't want to take anything away from us, but let's say you were going to explore those podcasts. They do have a Ric Flair 30 for 30 podcast, which I listened to the other day.
So they do a podcast for every actual, that's like a behind the scenes for every 30 for 30?
Maybe if it's like a recap of that episode. I don't know. It was pretty cool.
It's like a worse version of what we do here.
There you go.
Sure.
Definitely don't sound or look as good.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
but we did get to hang out with Ed Freeman State Farm for a while before and after the game.
Yeah, but it was really cool. I thought actually another game away from the game, but game day experience was Ed. He has some family members that have a spot in the new Bulldog Park, which is an RV park, which is a new tailgating scene.
There's
I guess
family members in there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Very cool. So you can buy the lot, own it, live there all year if you so chose in your RV, which is pretty cool. It's like buying a lot in Athens, yeah. But some people have gone above and beyond. They have built houses and bars and restaurants in this RV park. They bought that? Yeah, I had no idea. They bought several lots and just built this.
Oh my god,
2-story barbecue restaurant.
It's probably cheap.
Everything. It was awesome to know. But we just hopped on the golf cart, rode around, and saw all the different.
That's awesome.
Where is this at? So it's near the airport in Athens. It's kind of off the Barnett Shoals area. If you get off at the
I thought this was
exit
like
8
near
and kinda
campus or something.
head that way. No, I mean it's actually so they have a shuttle to the game like every hour leading up to the game, and then an hour after kickoff is the last shuttle back. So, but anyway, really cool spot to see if you ever kind of off the beaten path. It's not on campus, so it's not near downtown, so it's not the most, I guess. It's not the mecca. It's not the center of all the tailgating world, but it's a really cool spot to go check out. If you know anyone out there that can get you in.
Any investors, we would love a game day studio.
Yeah, well, we can do live broadcasts out there.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, but since we're talking about stuff like that, we give a shout out to listener Cole Erickson. His parents retired and moved to Athens at 5 Points. Have you been to their house?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a really cool setup in their backyard. They have a TV outside,
Yeah.
a big green egg, and a nice porch.
Yeah, we
And
stayed
they're
there
gonna
for
put in
Twilight.
a fireplace.
Shout
And
out.
if you ever see the giant stairs in front, we actually put those in.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did some
Yeah.
yard work. Actually, shout out to Cole for letting me stay at that house for Twilight a couple of years ago when I showed back up and he locked the doors and locked out of the house, and I could see him passed out in the bed, and I had to sleep in
I
my
thought
car.
that was Solomon. That was cool.
And it was cold. I had to sleep in the car in the garage, but the house is very
Classic.
cool.
The house is nice. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Erickson, for hosting us.
Nice.
Shout out to y'all.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get back on track and let's talk about Vandy, what we got coming up. Because this is one that I think, I wrote down dogs by a million here, but I also
We're
wrote,
toning it down from a trillion.
yeah,
from
I
last
also
week.
wrote dogs by a trillion for Tennessee. So I'm going to scale it back. I don't think any of our predictions came close for the score of last game.
I have them actually. If you want to read them out real quick.
Who was the closest?
You 47-3, I guess.
What did you
Jimmy
think?
Jimmy was 52-17. I was 52-0. So
I was
So
actually.
I came the closest to their offense, but one of their touchdowns was a pretty busted play.
It was, the
which
Jawan
those
Taylor.
happen. So it is what it is.
I was going to
count.
play devil's advocate last week with my pick, and I couldn't get my mic on fast enough before we moved on. So,
But David
I would've
was definitely going to say
I would've- I would
38-12.
have been so close at 38-12. That's
Is your
exactly-
mic plugged in right now? Is
Yeah.
anybody else having trouble
Yeah, we
hearing
can't
it?
really
I
hear
can't
you
hear
that
you
well,
at all.
Producer Dave.
Oh well. I'll quit talking.
I think you sound
I was
good.
just curious.
But yeah,
David's
I mean,
meant to be seen and not heard.
I'm certainly eating crow a little bit there for trying to. I got away from myself on that prediction. I will admit, because I guess I wanted us to beat them so bad, and I should have trusted the team a little better from what I've seen. They haven't showed me anything yet to think we're going to go out there and give them a goose egg and lay out 52. I also didn't see us not getting to 40 for the first time ever versus Tennessee.
First time ever. Just
For this season, sorry.
Yeah,
the first time this
First
season,
time
not
this
ever.
We
for the first time this season.
it was fun to hold them scoreless through halftime though, because that was 6.
I was believing we could, but
scored on us.
and to Jimmy's point, I mean the touchdowns they scored were we kept the drive alive on their deep touchdown pass when they beat Jawan Taylor, which was a good play call because they mixed it up and they had
You got everybody
tied up
confused. J.R. Reed was out of place, but not in a mistake way, and more of like he knew
was
where everybody
correcting,
was supposed
yeah.
to be and was telling everybody where to be.
But then the second touchdown was J.R. Reed coming up and almost support and just overrunning the route and then
Yeah, it is. I don't know what happened to him. Like, not that something happened at halftime, but he was tackling so well in the first half, and then he had a few missed tackles in the second half.
well he did actually. Do you know he and Natrez Patrick lead the team in missed tackles?
Really?
Yep.
I would not have guessed
5
that.
apiece. Yeah,
Because I think he
kind of
led the
alarming.
SEC in least amount of missed tackles last year.
Yeah, I mean, we have a weird feel to this team because, I mean, overall the numbers are looking good, but I was looking at Pro Football Focus and stuff, and Natrez Patrick and J.R. Reed are the top missed tackle.
You know,
defenders.
ESPN FPI, as of today, still gives us a 70% chance of beating LSU.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
So I was reading about LSU a little bit. They have a few injuries to their offensive line as well.
Okay.
I think so. I think they're heading in kind of dinged up, and no one yet. I don't think anyone on our schedule has the depth we have anyway. So as long as that is still the case, we're always going to be favored. And that doesn't surprise me. Again, I guess maybe how about this? Let's temper expectations. I don't see us winning by such a large margin as we might have thought we were going to. We thought we were going to breeze through the schedule. I think it might be, and as you're saying, here we are talking about Kentucky in October.
Right.
That's the first. I think.
Yeah.
We'll never have.
Kentucky's
it's funny
good.
because right
Kentucky,
here
you
I
got
have
11-1.
I had Kentucky as a trap game circled on my, and it's no longer a trap game. I think they have our
Yeah.
full attention. So that'll
That's
be
a
an
big
interesting
deal.
one. But anyway,
They have Texas A&M this week, I think.
is that who they got?
I think so.
That'll be a good one to look forward to.
Yeah.
Jury's out in A&M too. Sorry, we're getting away
Anyways,
from Vanderbilt.
So
But yeah,
Vanderbilt's
let's-
got a pretty good quarterback that's a senior. Shermer
Yep.
is his name.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the Drew Lock light. Poor man's Drew Lock.
Sure.
I
don't know.
I
I feel
just
like it's
wonder
still
if
pretty
we
heavy,
might.
heavy praise.
I just wonder if we might play a little defense closer to what we saw against Missouri. Just trust, even if they have a one-person advantage, kind of trust our guys versus their guys in the box to stop. Like Vanderbilt's not going to rush on us.
Yeah, they have similar stats. I mean, he has 9 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, similar to Fromm. I think Fromm's 9 and 2, and their leading rusher has 360 yards. And that's almost the exact same number, I think, as. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here.
Who is our leading rusher for
Elijah
the year? Is it Elijah Holyfield?
He's doing pretty well, and I think Jimmy would echo those sentiments.
He played okay. I thought Harrion played better this week, and Swift.
I think he played better, but he did good in that last drive to definitely help seal the deal. Although looking at
Elijah, I know you're a listener, so prove me wrong.
Looking at Vanderbilt, they have yet to win versus a SEC team. They only played one, South Carolina, that lost 37-14, and then they went to Notre Dame and played them tough.
They did play
22-17,
but that was before Notre Dame benched Brandon Wimbush. So now that they've got this different quarterback in there, they've averaged a lot more points.
Yeah,
I know Will's brother is keeping up with Notre Dame and the Bears because of Will's brother via social media.
Yeah, like I said, we'll have to have John or call in. I want to test our calling in feature. That's something that we're going to get up and running. For those of you that don't know, David has kind of pioneered this ability on the podcast to be able to get people to call in.
He literally invented calling into a podcast.
On this podcast, David has invented and pioneered that technology for us. So we're hopefully going to be able to get some guests on, other people that we, hang around with who follow college football pretty closely. Would always be fun. It's always great when we have like Eric in here to talk.
That was fun.
Our degenerate gambling friend Eric to talk about lines in Vegas. So hopefully we'll be able to do a little bit more of that. I know John follows that some more obscure teams, I guess, a little bit more closely than some of us. So hopefully we'll get him on the show. But yeah, I mean, I think that this game coming up this weekend is going to be exciting. I think that we still have a lot to look forward to. I don't think we're in jeopardy of losing this game by any means, but I still think that, as Tyler mentioned, it's going to come down to that execution, and it's really going to come down to, whether or not we're able to run the ball confidently with Fromm under center and whether he can hit those targets.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I want to see us keep our foot on the gas. I want to build that confidence. Even if I'm not asking to score 60 or 70 points, and I'm with Kirby. I'm with, if we don't have to, why show it? Why do it? Why risk injury? Why keep guys in there longer than you need to? But I want us to start to build a level of mental confidence heading to these games of we can do it. I am getting the reps. And I keep your foot on the gas. Don't get too cute. If you're up 24-0, if we're up 34-0, that's their job to stop you. Don't go out there and throw 3 passes right into the flats. Don't. I mean, they kept. If we're looking at unfortunately, Mecole Hardman, I think that was the first game in 5 games dating back to the national championship that he didn't score a touchdown. They kept him in check. So I guess certain things we didn't really go down. I mean, we went downfield, we just missed them. Unfortunately, I guess it's not like we didn't try to attack it, but I just keep your foot on the gas, and the execution has to be there for us to continue to keep our foot in the gas, right? If we're missing the deep balls, why are we going to continue to do it if we're not shoving it and we're still up? I understand that mindset and that approach. Unfortunately, versus Vanderbilt, I don't know too much about Vanderbilt because I don't think, year in and year out, I don't think they don't pose too much of a threat towards us. I don't think anyone had them kind of highlighted. I don't think we see it as a trap game. I guess it's another tune-up game, right? We're not going to overlook them heading into LSU, thankfully, because of the way we've played, I guess, in a sense. I still think, it's going to be, a tough week of practice in ramping up to it. I think I want to come out of this game feeling confident heading into LSU, right? I don't want to come out feeling the same versus.
You don't want to play down to him or play sloppy.
And that's a good point, Jimmy. I think what we've gotten away from is what it feels like is Kirby always says play to a standard. Do not play to an opponent, which is what a lot of coaches that have come through Georgia have, a lot of other teams we followed have. They play to an opponent and they make it interesting week in and week out. But that is not what Kirby and even Saban and that mold preaches and does. And again, we're winning comfortably, but we are not winning like I think everyone expected to be. I don't know if that's just us being so disconnected as fans and getting way ahead of ourselves. I think some fans would look at from the outside in would look and tell us, yes, you're getting ahead of yourself. But then again, they aren't as talented as we are.
Right.
They're not recruiting like we are. They don't have the athletes, the coaches, the scheme, the system.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans would look at us and they were spoiled that 2 weeks in a row we went on the road by 14 and then we win at home by 26 in 2 SEC games and being like, what are you guys so mad about?
Yeah,
but to your point, like we should be winning by more than that when you just purely look at the rosters.
Yeah.
I think we're looking for those statement wins, and I think, again, we've talked about this before on the podcast, that this speaks to the culture change and the demand for performance in each and every game. So, again, just to wrap up, Vandy, I don't think that we're going to see anything close. It's going to be a night game. I think it's going to be rowdy.
7:30, yeah.
Oh, my God. This week, I was not at the Labor Day game that you said was hotter, but this was the hottest game I've ever been to.
You know, Austin P, if you were there,
Oh, my God, I thought I was going to melt.
you can attest to how hot
Jimmy
Austin
said he
P was.
almost fainted.
I did at halftime when I stood up to go buy water. I was very careful to stand up slowly because I was literally worried that I was going to pass out when I stood up.
You got to hydrate and drink enough Michelob Ultras before you head into the game.
Yeah, I drank as many as I could, but I guess we got a late start, stayed out too late.
Do we have predictions?
Boar's Head on
Yeah, I was going to
Friday.
ask, what are our score predictions?
We'll start
here?
with Will. Will, you always go last, and I interrupt you, I feel like.
I'm going to say 41-10.
Oh, that's a good one. What's the line on the game?
I don't even know.
Oh, I didn't even see what it, I didn't even
I got
see
the
what it
email
opened up
today,
at.
and I didn't even open it.
Okay, let's go David. David, what do you think for, well, you got 41-10 Will. I'm writing these down.
38-12.
It's like a Price is Right scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
38-12. But
I'm
what
going
is that?
42 to 11.
for $1.
Is that really what you're going with?
Two safeties.
No, gosh.
So I want to know, David, is that a lot of field goals, 12, or is that just too late? It's like Tennessee, just too late
And a
2-point
safety.
conversions.
I don't know. It's going to be right, though. We'll
Okay,
see.
David, 38-12.
Touchdown, a field goal, and a safety.
David, same exact score as the Tennessee game.
Yeah, that's why I said it was good.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we are 27.5-point favorites, and I don't see us not covering 2 weeks in a row. Not that Kirby actually cares about that, but so I'm going to say 41-9.
I'm going to go.
Which I guess is really
Okay.
close to
What did you
Will's.
say?
Cool.
Kind of boxing Will.
What
in
did you
here.
say, Jimmy?
Great.
41-9.
Apparently,
Okay.
you have to justify the 9, so is that one touchdown and half a
It's
point?
3 field goals.
Okay. I'm saying a Disney dog. Tyler, myself, I'm going 45-13.
You're giving him 13?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Give him 13.
Yeah, I just had a hard time giving. Well, that's pretty reasonable. I guess I
Well,
didn't
so
even,
okay. How about this? So far,
'cause
we've
in
given
mine,
up.
I didn't even give him a touchdown.
We got Zip. We gave up Goose to Austin P. 17 to South Carolina. 7 to Middle Tennessee State. 29 to Missouri. 12 to Tennessee.
Yeah, so we've been giving up more touchdowns than we expected to. So maybe I should have had mine
45-13.
more like 10. Well, did you have 10? What did you just say?
41-10.
41-10.
Oh, well, that was why I was trying to stay away from 10, but 14 seemed a little generous, so that was how I landed on 9 with 3.
Go with your
3
heart, Jimmy.
field
What you
goals.
think?
You could do 13.
Picture Vanderbilt. What is Vanderbilt going to score on us?
All
What
right,
does Kyle
did you
show?
just say 45-13?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. 46-13. Because I believe in the dogs. I'm a better
Wow.
fan than
Okay.
you.
That's awesome. All right.
I think we're going to have a bad snap on an extra point. Rodrigo's just going to run it in there himself.
How about
That was
How about
awesome.
where he reset his
earned
foot?
that scholarship.
To
Yeah.
kick it.
No
Yeah, that
kidding.
was
He's still
cool.
100% on his.
That was
lifetime
incredible. I've never
career.
seen anything
on
like
PATs.
that.
Yeah, that was wild.
That was incredible.
David, do you think you could have done that in your prime?
Well,
How much
Yes.
force?
Yes.
If you're doing it like off balance, how much force is required to just chip one in for an extra point?
well, the thing about it is that's actually a drill.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So usually when you're warming up and you're starting out, you do no steps.
This
Yeah.
audio is rough.
Yeah.
Wrap it
sorry.
up, David.
You do no steps, and then you back up to one step, and then you back up to your full thing. So, like, it's not something that he's never done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, to that point, so I also kicked in high school,
Thanks for
believe it or
taking
not.
it.
Yeah, I gotcha. And it's so funny. So I went to a smaller 2A school, and no offense to them, we made it to playoffs one year in our entire existence. That was my senior year when I was kicking.
Because you were there.
And that's because I was there.
Tyler put the team on his back.
I did. Hey, we beat, I believe it was it Macon County? 10-7. I scored 4 of those points, baby. So anyway,
Oh, look
we're
at
getting
you.
away. Anyway, so there was a drill though. We had to actually change how I kicked because if the field goal or PAT was in a certain
Had to
amount of
get
distance, I took one step and kicked it because our special teams offensive line unit was not good enough to hold up for a 3-step kick. So I swear. So kickers do practice this. So props to Rodrigo for doing it on the fly and staying 100%.
And it
in his
was
career.
laces in. Did you notice that
I
on
did
the
not.
replay?
Jeez,
Yeah, so he
everything
bobbled,
going wrong.
the hold, and then when he finally got it under control,
Yeah.
Rodrigo kicked it right in the laces.
It was funny because when they did show the
Split
replay, I wasn't watching the ball. I was watching the sideline, and people were going nuts. You thought we would have won it all right there. We won the championship. Yeah,
the team really seems to love Rodrigo.
Yeah.
He's just kind of a quirky guy.
He is.
He's really earned his scholarship and done such a good job for us.
He has. The only two hiccups he's had all year are the two kickoffs versus Missouri that weren't touchbacks. Those are the only two blemishes he's had his entire season.
Well, he missed two against Missouri, but one was blocked, so that's...
well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's hard to say.
That's not
Yeah,
like him.
I guess you have to have some amount of awareness as a kicker to what
fair.
angle you take.
They didn't push.
David said he didn't push. He's doing like it looks like salt and pepper. Like push it.
Push it.
Push it. All right, moving on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What else we got?
So we're gonna move on. We're
For
gonna.
anyone complaining about my audio, Will forgot his mic.
I did forget my mic.
This is Will's fault.
But
and
we know-
also the fact that the audio is so good every week is 100% thanks to David. So I guess we can cut him a little
I did forget my mic. We just know where the priorities lie here. So
Yeah. If not for all this, it'd be like Tyler and I recording on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Just like passing it back and forth.
We'd figure it out.
I do have the iPhone XS now, so
Oh, very nice.
low key brag there.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move away from Georgia football and we're gonna talk NHL because I know you guys really stay on top of that
Hockey.
sport. Preseason
Preds.
is going on.
Preds
David,
on top.
if there's one person that needed a mic here for this conversation, it's David. So David, please feel free to chime in. I don't care how crappy your audio is, but
yeah.
in my opinion,
I'm just now finding out we're talking about hockey. I thought we were talking about the NFL.
nope,
Okay.
NHL. So we're going to talk about the NHL, and really, I think anybody can chime in here, but more so David. We are going to talk about the enforcer role. I don't care if you have never watched a game of hockey. You should at least know what that is, right? Like the goon who's out on the ice, who's literally just out there to headhunt. Okay. Now, my argument
Essentially a beater.
No,
To draw
essentially a Bash brother.
a Quidditch
here...
parallel.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Fred and
Khalil
George
Mack
Weasley.
and Roquan Smith.
They, oh, yeah.
So that would be
That's a
like
nice
your
NFL reference.
enforcers.
Now I'm tracking.
Okay. So I think that every single sport needs this to a fault. Now, the problem that you get here, though, is that you're going to draw a lot of penalties for something like in the NFL, right? Unnecessary roughness, roughing the quarterback. But in the NHL, you take that penalty because you're setting a tone to let them know, like, we're coming after you every single play, and we're going to take these penalties until you're not willing to get up. Your take, I want to know, is that something that more teams, whether it's the NFL or the NBA, should incorporate into their organizations to set a tone? I know we've strayed away from this in recent times, but when you look back in the older days of the NBA, you had guys who weren't afraid to throw bows down in the paint,
That's where I was going to go with that.
and let them know. So what are your takes?
I think in football you already have that ingrained. Either a team that has it or you don't. I feel like that almost comes with a territory with how physical. Like football's exact rule is to go and knock someone into the ground and hopefully knock the ball loose.
Just don't land
and
on
get them
them.
down.
Yeah, if they're the quarterback, just make sure to
But
land on them with
I
all or
think
some of your weight.
in football, it's not even you need to have a single guy. I think you're just coached like that.
What would be a
unfortunately, I think.
team in the NFL currently that would embody that? Because everybody comes to
Ndamukong Suh.
Whatever
okay.
team Ndamukong Suh plays for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron Donald, Chicago Bears are nasty.
'cause
Khalil Mack, those are. I mean,
every press conference they
Where
always
is,
come in and they're like, we want to be a
Nick
really
Bailey
physical
playing for
defense.
right
We
now?
want to be a really physical defense. We want to set the tone and let them know that we're there. And like everybody has that mentality, but how many of those people, like outside of like Bountygate, literally execute that on the field?
Yeah.
Who would be a team that you could point to now and just be like, that's the meanest defense that's out right now?
It was the Raiders way back when. They always had a reputation for being that to the point of being dirty.
Steelers have had that before.
Steel curtain.
Monsters of Midway. I mean, teams have had it. Obviously,
the
it's not.
The Eagles a little bit had that. They're the number one rush defense in the NFL, which I feel like is speaks to your physicality more so than having the number one pass defense, because you could just have a
totally
lockdown
agree with
corner
that.
that's kind of like a Deion Sanders type guy who's not super physical, is just very athletic.
Yeah. So I think in football that comes almost with somehow the coaching, the veteran leadership, what you have in the locker room, and the kind of guys you have on the field. Then switching sports, I guess, in sports wide with basketball, I think that tends to come with who the opposing team is. Like for instance, MJ, I think they documented a good bit when he played the Pistons. They would just rough him up just to let him know you're not coming in our house. We're not coming to Chicago and it's going to allow you to showboat. And I think even like unfortunately the game's changed a little bit. They blow the whistle for the stars, but people are rough up LeBron James just like was that Lance Thompson, and they'll get in his face and they'll foul him, just let him know I'm not going to give you anything easy. Unfortunately, in the NBA, you can really be. I guess even in the NFL, if in some of the new rules, if you headhunt and but you can get fouled out of a game in the NBA, so that can really cost you. So to a degree, I mean, I don't think I'd want to see it implemented into any of the sports that exist. I think it's cool that hockey exists like that, but I mean, basketball already has a penalty to where you're out of the game if you foul too much. So you can do it to set a tone, but it's going to end up being detrimental to your team. Same as football. If you go and help them to helmet on purpose.
Yeah, I guess I just wish, and again, it's kind of tough to have this conversation because of the way that sports are trending, and to some extent, rightfully so. There's so much more data to back up head collisions and the force of the blows that these guys are taking on a weekly basis or whatever. But it would be nice to have somebody or an organization or a coach come in and back up what they're saying. Like, we want to have our defense be noted for being so tough that teams absolutely dread coming into our house and playing us because they know that they're going to get beat to hell when they do. So I don't know. I know that hockey is kind of on an island in that sense, but it would be nice to see that. Maybe not necessarily dirty plays or head-to-head plays, but
I think Clay Matthews is trying to. These hits he's been putting on the quarterback, they've really been setting a tone for me.
Well, so I want to understand this a little better. So, like, hockey, so they call him the goon. They'll put a guy in there to straight up go hit, just knock someone out and then just have a power play against them.
So, like, Zdeno Chara is, like, a perfect example. Now,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So, Zdeno Chara is a defensive player.
Who does he play for, Jimmy?
So he's on the
hockey.
He's on the Bruins.
Okay.
He's like
Boston.
7 foot something on skates, right? The dude's massive. Now he can actually play. Like, he serves another purpose than just being out there and beating people up. But if somebody takes a shot or a run at one of your stars, then that next line that's coming up, Chara is going to be putting you into the boards.
Well, but to that point, I would say, like, your left tackle in the NFL, like, I know for the Titans, like, Taylor Lewan is our left tackle, and he very much has a reputation that if anybody ever takes any sort of cheap shot at Marcus Mariota, he's always the first guy in there. And so,
yeah.
You expect your offensive line to do that for your quarterback. If you're looking at, the goons that are protecting your star player, you could argue that to a certain point. And then I think you have to develop chemistry past just the fact that it's like, oh, my job is to block for this guy. You have to really have a locker room that care about each other and stuff like that. But you do see offensive linemen, I feel like, come flying in to protect their quarterback when they feel like somebody took a cheap shot.
I think
that's a good point.
Shout out Taylor Lewan.
That is the thing about hockey, though.
He listens.
They switch out the line so quickly that you can have a guy that's in there every few minutes doing that, and you didn't just lose your middle linebacker or your safety, for the rest of the game or whatever.
Well, that's another good point because hockey is such a free-flowing sport that, like as David mentioned, these lines change so quickly. So the revenge may not come in the next 30 to 45 seconds when that line's out there, but that guy's got a target on his back the rest of the game, and he's going to get his. In a response to that. So kind of interesting. I guess baseball would even have it throwing, inside and backing a guy off. We've seen that case in point with Acuna this year at the Braves. And, I guess you could argue that he was trying to make a stand when they were shelling the Marlins. But just kind of something interesting to think about. It's so common in the NHL. I wanted to hear what your take, if you thought that existed in other sports, or if it should be something that should be implemented more.
I think it exists. I just don't think it's as spoken as it is in hockey. I think you have guys in there.
It's not quite as acknowledged because hockey is they celebrate the violence in hockey to the point where they don't have. Yeah, no, it's fun to watch. Hockey it's exciting, but you have to be a little more like nuanced about it in other sports because if you just put a guy out there that's like, yeah, he's the goon, he's there to try and hurt people. That's how, Bounty Gate type stuff.
Now, I just learned this. David, you're a new age hockey fan. I know you've kind of gotten into it a lot more because our beloved Thrashers, RIP, have been removed. So naturally,
I still believe in Blue Land.
In the South.
They're coming back,
baby. The Southeast, I guess our team is what we get just on a regional broadcast is
Smashville.
Nashville
Predators.
Predators, thank you. David, can you name the 4 divisions in hockey?
No, absolutely not.
I had no idea. So it makes sense. Atlantic,
East, West,
Pacific, Central. Metropolitan is a division. That was kind of unique.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, Metropolitan.
My friend Kyron, if he still listens to this, is dying inside right now.
Yeah.
He's a huge
Sorry,
hockey
I'm
fan.
not a huge hockey guy. I mean, if it's on and everything, and I should say everything else is off, but like I'll go into David's house before and he'll have the Preds game on, and I'll sit there and I'll just watch the whole thing and just like, okay, you just get sucked into it. It's a fun sport to watch.
It's definitely more fun to watch in a stadium. I will say that because the stadiums are closer. You're more on top of the ice, like as far as the field of play. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love going to football games and stuff, to watch. But it's hard to beat that view on your couch. But hockey doesn't really lend itself to watching on TV because the puck's moving so fast. if you're not familiar with watching game after game, it's kind of tough to tell exactly what's going on. So I can understand why that might not play into somebody's repertoire of the sports that they would watch. I will say, though, since it's back on, David and I are going to make a priority to discuss hockey more on this show, and we'll let you guys know when it's coming up. Hint, it starts next week. So
we can do
be
our research
prepared.
on it.
Yep.
Fun fact, Toronto Maple Leafs have the best odds in the NHL to win the Stanley Cup this year, and they haven't won a Stanley Cup since the 50s.
Why is that? Yeah, did they get
I don't know,
somebody?
they probably have the best
I
team.
don't know who they acquired in the offseason or anything like that, so I couldn't really speak to
They
it.
just do the hockey better than other teams.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a Chicago
on a
Blackhawks fan,
night-to-night
so
basis.
I've got the Hawks going all the
All the
way
way.
every year.
Ooh,
On good faith,
bad news, Will.
on
They're
good
way
faith, I'm
down
probably
here.
going to be in Smashville this next year.
You going to a game?
Yeah,
How about that? That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah?
yeah.
I'll go with
Are you really?
Nashville's always a good time.
They play I don't know when they play the Hawks, but I've always wanted to go to see a Preds game. I heard they have an awesome fan base and an awesome
supposed to be a lot of
stadium.
fun.
And
Carrie Underwood's there sometimes, so
Yeah,
that
she's
can get me to
married
go.
to Mike
and the
Fisher.
Blackhawks travel really well, so that would be a cool matchup to see with the fans and all that. But
Speaking of Nashville, do we want to talk about the fact that the Titans are 3-1?
Nope.
With wins over the Eagles and the Jags?
so we're going to wrap up the show in just a minute here, but
All
we
right.
do want to
Keep
get on
sleeping on the
to
Titans.
a Mount Rushmore discussion, and this one is going to call the nerd in all of us, because the Mount Rushmore discussion for tonight is what is the best video game franchise to ever have existed? And this can be on any platform. So this spans sports, it spans third-person games, whatever the case might be. David, what is your take for the best video game sports franchises? And just give us one or two off the top of your head.
I'll be quick, but this is hard for me because I only really like franchises on one console or so.
Which is what?
I was going to go with Mario Kart, Nintendo 64. It obviously is a franchise because it continues, but I really don't care about the new versions.
I agree with that. Same with Super Smash Brothers. Everything past N64 is fake news.
What about you, Will? Do you have one?
This is tough because there's a lot of them, right?
Okay.
So just Mario in and of itself, right? Like when I had the first N64 and you had Mario 64, and then of course you had all of the old games on the old Nintendos, like that's pretty
NES.
hard to beat, right? But then I got to go with probably Madden, right? I know that we had a little bit of a discussion prior to this show, but how could you not say that that's one of the best video game franchises? It was the first sports franchise game to ever have a realistic feel, and it's funny that we talked about this, but there was another podcast on a slightly less well-known network talking about the John Madden and signing his name onto that, and his whole thing was there has to be 11 guys on the field playing for offense and defense, and they said like with the technology at the time they just couldn't do it, and he wasn't going to sign on until they figured out how to do it.
So that's why they did NFL Blitz instead, when you have like 7 guys
That's
on the
pretty
field.
cool.
when
So it was
Blitz
just kind of
98
interesting,
came out.
but and I understand that like year after year you think it's like, well, they've only really updated the rosters, and that might be true as we've gotten further along in the technology, but you're talking about massive jumps from console to console when you look at Nintendo to N64 to now Xbox and things like that. So it's kind of a franchise that continues to reinvent itself, and people continue to buy it. It has to be one of the best-selling franchises of all time.
That or
I
FIFA,
can tell you the one that I have bought the most of outside of Call of Duty, because you have to keep buying Call of Duties,
Call of Duty.
is Need for Speed.
Oh,
that's a good
yeah.
one.
I remember watching you
I
guys
remember
play
playing
Need
that.
for
Starting
Speed
with
in college a
PlayStation
lot.
2.
Yeah.
That's true.
That is a good
I
one.
was
Hot
never been a
Pursuit,
big.
too.
I've never been a
That's
big
good.
racing game
Yeah.
guy.
See, but Forza was another one that you mentioned. That's another racing game, but it's like a realistic, style of racing where you try and collect all the cars and all this kind of stuff. So I'm definitely on board with the racing franchises.
I didn't grow up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna go Mario, but I just thought of it just now. I think in terms of just what I spent the most time doing with my friends and like enjoying playing growing up, I would say Guitar Hero.
Oh, that is
We
a
played
good
a
one.
lot of Guitar
That is
Hero.
wildly underrated, I
Yeah.
think.
That's true.
I had the whole Guitar Hero, like not Rock Band, but what was it called when Guitar Hero you could get the drums and the microphone and stuff?
Rock Band.
Well, no, that was a separate franchise, but then there was a Guitar Hero iteration that you had. All that
Guitar
stuff.
Hero dash
With
Rock
drums.
Band.
Guitar Hero band, and I got it for Christmas one year. Shout out to my parents. We had a ton of fun with that.
There you go.
That is an
playing
awesome
it up
one.
in the bonus room. in
I
the
actually
house in
have
Knoxville.
I have Rock Band on the Wii.
You guys
here
need to get
you
that
have
for
it
the
here? Okay, we're
You
gonna
have
play that
Rock
tonight.
Band?
Let's wrap up this podcast.
Oh my God!
tonight.
All
Sorry,
right.
I got
Well,
the
I was
Hold
going
on,
to
I
say
want to give my take.
Nobody
Okay.
cares. Let's
you
all
need
wrap
you
up.
need to get
quick.
that out
I'll
next
make
time
it
we can
quick.
play that pre-show.
I'll make it quick. So I like. I guess I'll go with something a little different. I agree with the Wheel of Sports games are fun. RIP in NCAA football. I think that
Yeah.
was
maybe
such a
someday.
cool game to get to play with your alma mater. You get to put your own player, your own face in there. You get
Basketball and football.
And then and they had baseball too.
Did they really?
On PS2,
They did
yeah.
NCAA
It all went
baseball?
out. Yeah,
Like, really?
yeah. But I
That's
think
gotta be one of
those
the
games are
most
so much
boring
fun.
baseball games.
Just because you could recruit, you could become the coach of your school. You can recruit offense, defense, and then a recruiting team. You could pitch them on need, academics, all this stuff, and it was just that was really cool. But RIP, that's no longer there. Didn't last. So I don't think you can call it greatest of all time. I like. I'll go a little different direction. Shooter games. So I'm going
There
to
you
go with Battlefield. There's a couple of buddies
Strong.
in college.
Strong.
That was the first game that kind of graduated from what the Call of Duty stuff is, kind of the arcadey kind of
Running around
because
and-
how it had, life didn't matter, just kind of just plug and play, and it's kind of arcadey feeling to me. I know we're getting really nerdy.
I remember walking into Yellow House when you were probably senior and or whatever, but talking about you guys were playing Battlefield, and I was like, man, I really like Call of Duty. And Tyler was like, man, Call of Duty is for children. This is a man's game.
It is a man's game.
It's like, okay.
I echo that sentiment.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot more difficult, a lot more complex, and I just think those games. Granted, the story mode doesn't necessarily always translate game to game to game, but the online play was very fun, and I think we have a good bit of us that still play it now.
Dude,
so.
Assassin's Creed.
I never
was-
liked
I was
Assassin's
never a big
Creed.
Assassin's Creed.
Dude,
guy.
Assassin's Creed was awesome.
I never played Grand Theft Auto either. People like those games.
How
That-
did we
man,
not
how did-
say
that's-
Grand Theft Auto?
that's been around for
We're kind of
forever.
that's bad. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto has got to be up there.
Dude,
Yeah.
the newest one was whatever, just Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
I've got that one, and I never used to. I was used to just to get it and like get the guns and run around.
Yeah.
And then I actually played the story missions, and it changed
Very
I've
cool.
never-
my perception.
I
of,
definitely was not allowed to play it in middle school.
Nope.
Yeah.
So,
I also
Mom,
think
if
though-
you're listening, I still have never played Grand Theft Auto.
Also, I think we can go without saying Halo. I didn't grow up playing
Halo's
Halo,
a fun
but like
game.
now on the
I
newer
hated
stuff,
Halo.
you can have like all 5 games in one, so it's really
Master Chief
compact. You can
Collection?
play, yeah, or 4 games. The
I think
first 4.
that's
That's what I've
the
read.
very beginning of a game where it's like Slayer, right? Is that Halo?
Team Blue.
Team Slayer.
I don't play that. I just know
Slayer.
that
That'll always
people
remind me
love
of Halo.
that.
And you have the Needler
franchise.
and the Power Sword.
The kill streak.
As
That was
soon
Halo
as,
too.
Killjoy.
as soon as Rocket League has a number 2, then my
Yeah,
answer might
Rocket
change.
League's a fun game.
You know what? Though?
too.
Rocket
I don't
League is our
think
go-to.
Games aren't really going that direction though, David. I feel like because games now are such they're digital download. They don't have disc, so they just update. They call them seasons now. So they update
Firmware
season 5,
update
6,
2.0.
That's all they do. So there's no. I don't think there'll ever be a Rocket League 2. I think it just keeps adding on seasons and patches and making it different. And that's the
Which
way
is
games are
basically
going.
just a money grab so that they can release half a game now and then do all the
very
updates
true.
later. And
Yeah.
you're like, what the heck? This isn't even finished. And they're like, oh, don't worry. Next year we're coming out with an update. Mm-hmm. So I hear that. Well,
Mortal Kombat too. Mortal Kombat was fun.
that's a good one.
Yeah,
David,
a
I
lot
think
are going unnamed here. We're kind of doing a bad job of.
yeah. We probably should have done
Street Fighter.
some amount of research.
Street
on
Fighter.
this.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, we really botched this.
Marvel vs. Capcom. Those were all like in the same vein.
Mega
of each
Man's a
other.
big one.
It's
That's
just like
old,
a
but
2D
yeah.
thing where they fight.
Pong.
Pong was a good one.
Pac-Man. I mean, those very just
Donkey Kong
Mr. and
64.
Mrs.
That game
Jeez.
was fun.
That was
Yeah.
some Diddy
We-
Kong Racing. That's a
We
good one.
kind of
I
dropped the
didn't like
ball on
Diddy
this.
Kong.
007. How many 007
Oh,
games are there?
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye
Oh,
obviously
goodness.
is, but I think there were a couple on
Star
PS2.
Fox.
that were-
Zelda.
Star Fox was a good one and done. Star
Did
Fox
anybody
2,
bring up
I
Zelda?
don't play.
No, I brought it up before and you guys shot it down.
I didn't.
You
I was
play
just-
by yourself and they take forever. That's not
Yeah.
my thing.
That's true. And we kind of all glossed over Mario. I think we all like mentioned Mario, but then nobody chose it as their Mount Rushmore. So
See, I like those
Mario
games.
might have
though,
got
Tyler.
done dirty a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I like to think of what I can pick up and play now. Like I don't think I'd go back and play like an original Mario game.
Pokemon on Game Boy.
That's just
Yeah,
it.
that's a good one too.
That's a good one.
Then you can trade.
Tyler and I
you could-
went to New Orleans like 4 years ago.
Okay,
and
easy.
Oh, I thought you were
Like
talking about
17
games
years
you could
ago.
pick up right now and start over.
I literally
I could do that
have-
again.
Yeah, I have Pokemon
I couldn't
for
do that.
Game Boy
Just
downstairs
do the rare
right
candy
now.
cheat and
Dude, Pokemon Stadium on N64 was where it was
That was
at.
awesome
So
'cause you could
Pokemon
take-
Snap was a fun game too. Should we stop recording?
We probably
David's
should.
probably just going to
We're like an hour and a half.
we're
in, probably.
embarrassing ourselves.
We don't care about our listeners anymore. We're just having fun talking to
This
each
is for
other.
me. I work all day to come here and talk about this, so I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
No. All right. Well, we are going to wrap it up, and we want to say thank you to all of our listeners out there. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. And be also sure to check out In We Go and Ed Freeman State Farm, as we brought up on this show. And we look forward to having you guys all here again next week. So from all of us here, thanks for listening, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.